All right, so I'm going to review a couple things in drawing the treehouse, and then I will show you guys how to start coloring it. First thing I want to review is that when you are drawing like any texture on the treehouse, which you need, you're going to use your ruler and you're going to measure going down the center line, making sure that the texture you're going to do, be it siding or brick, is evenly spaced apart. Okay, so I went in and did my dots, making sure they were about a 1/4 inch apart. On the left side of my building, I'm going to connect all of these dots to the left vanishing point. Of course, I'm not going to draw all the way there because then I would just end up with a lot of excess to erase. So I'm just going to line my ruler up with the left vanishing point, draw my line, and stop. On the right, I'm going to connect to my right vanishing point, draw my line, stop when I hit the edge of the building. If you come across a door or a window, obviously you want to pick your pencil up and not draw through the door or window. If you want to transform this siding into a brick texture, it's not very difficult to do that. You're just going to have to take your ruler and turn it up vertically like this. Do a line in the first and third row, scoot it over, do a line in the second and fourth row. Obviously, you would go all the way down your building. I'm just showing you an example on the top here. I'm going to scoot my ruler over again, go back to odds, 1 and 3, scoot it over, go back to evens, and like I said, you would go all the way down your building with the brick likely. Some buildings have like siding on the top, brick on the bottom, so you can maybe do something like that. You could do a log cabin. You could just do siding over the whole thing if you wanted. So that's brick texture. The next thing I'm going to review is a ladder. The ladder is really complicated. So I've done kind of a little example over here. This is what your ladder is going to look like if it's on the left. This is what it'll look like on the right. You don't necessarily need, go sit down, Frankie. You don't necessarily need to draw these in with your ruler. If you could just kind of estimate what they would look like, you could draw them in on the left side of the tree or draw them in on the right. So the key is knowing what they should look like. So if you're to draw a box in 2-point perspective on the horizon line, you start with a vertical, you take the top and bottom, connect to both vanishing points, vertical, vertical. You only see the 2 sides. Same goes for the ladder. So if you're drawing a ladder rung and it's longer this way and skinny on the edge, like a little 2x4 cut down like this, if it's on the right, you'll see a lot more of the length towards the right, and you'll just see a little short side on the left. Okay? And then if it's on the left, you'll see a lot more of the long length of the ladder on the left and the little short side on the right. Okay? If your box is above the horizon line, you'll start with your vertical, connect to both vanishing points. The bottom will crisscross like that. So what will happen is you'll see a little bit of the bottom of the ladder rung here, and on this side you would see a little bit of the ladder rung here. Okay? Oh, you know what? There we go. I should have connected at that corner. If your ladder rung is below the horizon line, then it would just be like a box below the horizon line. You'd start with a vertical, connect to both vanishing points, vertical, vertical on the edges, and then crisscross the bottom, kind of like that, okay? So my ladder rungs on this side, you'll see a lot more of the left side, a lot less on the right. As they go below the horizon line, because obviously this guy right here is on the horizon line, so for him, I just see the left and the right side. For the one that goes above, I see the left and the right and the bottom. For the one that goes below, I'm going to see the left and right side. And then I'm also going to see a little bit on the top here as well. Then you would just want to erase where your tree goes inside your ladder. By the way, you can do a ladder that's sort of nailed to the tree if you'd like. So you could have like your ladder pieces look like they're on the tree itself. Oh, let me make this one in correct perspective. There we go. So this one would be like one that's nailed to the tree. This one over here would look like one that has a rope going through the back. So then I would just draw my rope kind of going from ladder rung to ladder rung. And like I said, you'd want to make sure and erase your tree wherever it goes inside one of these rungs of the ladder. Other than that, I just want to review tree branches. If you're going to do tree branches, they should get skinnier as you go out towards the edges. Instead of doing them in one line and making it look kind of round and bulbous like a broken finger, I want you to do 2 separate lines. So one line here, stop, come to the back, and do another line that gradually gets closer together. The same rules apply for all the branches you add on here. And every time you add a branch, I want you to erase the connection point from branch to branch, okay? Okay, and then, the last thing I want to talk about is the background. Whatever you're doing in the background of your treehouse, I want it to be very simple, and I'd like it to be very small. So what I mean by that is I want it to look like it's sort of far away. So if I wanted to draw another tree here on the horizon, I could go in and I could draw in like another tree back here, okay? Maybe I want to draw like a bunch of trees. Maybe I'll have some in like the middle ground, which look a little bit larger, and then some in the background, which look very small, okay? Maybe you want to draw like a mountain range. So instead of just using this horizon line, maybe I'll add another one. Then I'll draw some small mountains on that mountain range so they look like they're far off in the distance. If you want to draw any like pools or bodies of water, they will not look like a perfect circle. Instead, it will look like an oval or whatever kind of shape your lake is seen from a side view. So let's say this is the shape of my lake. It won't look very tall. It'll kind of look long and skinny like that, like it's seen from a side view. Same thing if you were drawing a pool. Let me make sure you guys can see this. So a pool would be more of like an ellipse or an oval. Straight lines down, curve at the bottom. That would be a pool. Or a trampoline, I suppose, would be kind of the same way, okay? When you guys go to color, I'm going to do, a separate video for color. Okay, guys, so I want to talk about adding Sharpie. Obviously, there's a lot of perfectly straight lines on this project, so please use a ruler when drawing any of those. I would highly suggest you guys go in and do all the outside edges of your treehouse first. And then go in and do the details like doors and textures and all that. Because what these lines will do is they will prevent your other lines from exiting that area. So it's a lot easier to see this line through a ruler. And it's a lot easier to stop when you get there. Okay? My treehouse is actually probably a little bit small for this thick Sharpie. But if you guys can, I prefer that you use the thicker Sharpie when you're doing yours. Especially on the borders or edges, just because it shows up better from a distance. However, if you feel more comfortable using the ultrafine Sharpie and you feel like it's going to be more precise, you guys can do that as well. Make sure and not let the Sharpie like linger on the edge, or otherwise you'll get like, you know, those really dark dots that kind of come along with it. All right, so you're going to outline everything in Sharpie. When you're outlining the trees or the branches or anything delicate and intricate, if you want to go in and you want to use this little one, that's fine. On one of my tree houses, I did the ladder rungs looking very like almost like a worn piece of wood where it's kind of rounded on the corners. So if you'd rather make your ladder rung look a little rounded on the corners and weathered and things like that, then you don't necessarily need that to look like it's like done by a ruler. Just make sure that it looks intentional. It doesn't look like a mistake, okay? Make sure you've also erased areas that you shouldn't be tracing, and we're not accidentally tracing those when you go on to Sharpie, okay? So after you get Sharpie done, obviously you should go in and erase all pencil lines and everything like that. I'm adding some like wood grain to these guys, maybe like a little knotty area here. All right. Frank, you gotta be quiet, honey. All right, so anyway, what I'm gonna do next, oh yeah, on the trees and that, if you guys wanna kind of go over with kind of a sketchy look to add some like, you know, life to these branches, make them look not so perfect, you can do that. When it comes to coloring, you guys need to make sure and not color flat, because if you just go in and you just color the whole thing with flat color, it's going to flatten out that perspective and make it not look as three-dimensional. So what I need you to decide on is which side of your treehouse is going to be darker and which side is going to be lighter, like almost like where the light is coming from. So if this side is going to be darker, I'm going to start really dark on this line right here, and I'm going to fade over it lighter and lighter and lighter as I move to the left, okay? The opposite side of my building should be colored the same, using the same colors. By the way, you can use multiple colors to do this. You just have to make sure that they all look... underneath the treehouse, you'll probably want it to be nice and shadowed under here. On the ladder rung, you'll need to do the same thing. Like, you'll need to make sure that the ladder looks darker under here and lighter on the top there. And also, if my treehouse is light on the left, dark on the right, then my ladder will look the same. When you're coloring tree branches, they are like a cylinder type object, so make sure that your tree branches are a little bit darker on the edges, lighter at the center, because usually the center area that's closer to you is the area that's getting the most light. And when you're coloring the background, this is the last thing I have to tell you guys, is the background should be colored very, very lightly. You might want to opt to just outline the background in like colored pencil or something lighter. And then when you're coloring in the background, I would like the coloring to be really light and wispy, you know, so that you don't see a lot of these, like, you know, lines that are very distracting. By the way, you can color it realistically or abstractly. It's kind of up to you. So I'm coloring the background very light, very wispy. You might even want to do like a bluish cast over the background, just because usually things that are farther away have like a bluish grayish tone to them. You might even want to like just do a blue over the entire area of the background. Just do like a really, really, really light blue. That's up to you guys. It might be more distracting if you're doing more of these layers. But anyway, try to make sure that the background is light and subtle and that the treehouse itself really, really stands out. Like I said, do not outline the background in Sharpie. Just outline it maybe in colored pencils. That doesn't mean I just want to see a bunch of pencil in the background. It just means it all needs to be lighter.